It's June 13th, 2013. And this is a video about something I've encountered recently and in the longer term, and that is that there's apparently discrimination against implicit and explicit discrimination against people who have engaged in something called sexual reproduction. And when a person engages in sexual reproduction, usually that phrase implies that they have one or more children. So there are groups of people who would prefer to apparently marginalize and hide the fact that humans engage in sexual reproduction. So, in the longer term, this is what I've seen. In the longer term, more generally, there's this leftist cultural mimetic thing that states that because people have a lot of children in the so-called third world, that means you should not have any children yourself. So it's basically an equivalent to saying that because people don't eat enough food in third world countries, that means you should eat your peas. It's basically, it's your right to choose to be a zero, because who's going to care if you were ever alive in 100 years? That's one good argument for engaging in sexual reproduction. And of course, there's many others. And of course, we don't engage in sexual reproduction just for the sake of intellectual arguments. That's for damn sure, right? Excuse me while I return a video to the library. So, there we go. So anyway, there's this, like I say, left-leaning cultural idea that because overpopulation is a big, huge concern, that means you should not have kids yourself, and people who have a lot of kids, well, they're just so bad. And you know, that's an abusive idea. And the right people have abusive ideas, and the left do as well. So, anyway, I don't think that the right gets to hijack the word family, but neither does the left. The right for their own ends, and the left to denigrate the word for their own ends as well. Families should be supported and promoted, and yeah. So that's the longer term deal with the left in general. Then, after leaving Mormonism, I came across the Unitarian Universalists, and they, at their church meetings, they have the kids there for the first 5 minutes or so, and then they send them away to classes. And if you show up with your kid at one of their meetings, they're very anxious to have your kid shuffled away to some other room. Very anxious. And Unitarianism is pretty much chock full of people who are culturally very left. Okay? The Planned Parenthood advocates. Now, I've stated in previous blog posts that it's clear that Planned Parenthood, as it exists today, does some good work. But its founder was a eugenics advocate. Okay? So, does that mean I think that all abortion should be illegal from the first heartbeat? No. I don't believe that. And groups that advocate that are stupid and abusive also. So, I think that first trimester abortion should remain legal. And then second trimester there should be a dividing line between when viability and not viability, okay? And there is a weight between when, the life of the mother and what the mother thinks and what the rights of this unborn child are. So there is a weighting that goes on, and that weight tips to the child's favor when they become viable, in my opinion. So I don't agree with these nutbags who say, oh, from the first heartbeat you have to ban abortion. That's stupid. I don't think so. But on the other hand, I think that, you shouldn't be an advocate for eugenics either, and for just having zero population growth, and that I don't think that so-called overpopulation is, something we need to be too concerned about. There's going to be a natural limiting factor, and what China's doing with having the one-child thing, that's abusive also, So you can go too far with your little controls. Left-leaning authoritarians are just as distasteful as right-leaning authoritarians. Okay. So the Unitarians shuffling their kids away doesn't seem that good to me either. I think kids should stay with their parents, while they're in the meetings. Maybe after the first meeting you can have a supplementary half hour where kids have a little lesson. But for the main meeting, I think kids should be with their parents during a church meeting, okay? But Unitarians also have problems with the freedom to believe. If you go to the First Unitarian Church in Salt Lake, they have a stained glass window thing inside, and also on a poster, freedom to believe. But it's also freedom to believe in bullshit. Because part of Unitarianism, part of their whole setup is to just have people who believe in anything, even crazy, wacky bullshit, to be present, and let's all worship together and work for so-called social justice. And I've seen firsthand what their definition is of social justice. It means denying what the nature of Muhammad, denying his, who he was and what he did, marrying a 6-year-old and having sex with her at 9, and they think, oh yeah, he just was so great to women. That's bullshit. Yeah, he was great to women when he engaged in religious wars and killed people who refused to convert to Islam, and engaged in polygamy, and married a 6-year-old and had sex with her at 9. And then his legacy is this burqa stuff, the hijab and the niqab, and this whole deal of being afraid of sex. If you think it's bad in Mormonism and Catholicism, by hell, it's really bad in Islam. This whole deal of being afraid of the fact that you're a sexual animal, a sexual being. So, Unitarianism has got huge problems with that. Huge. So, the freedom to believe in bullshit, that's Unitarianism. And taboos against actually speaking the truth. So, that's their main problem, but this children thing of shuffling kids away, that's not good either. Okay, so, we've got two so far. We've got the ultra-lefty view that having kids is basically a bad thing. That's abusive and wrong. Then we have the Unitarian, who, there are a lot of lefties, and their cultural history comes from eugenicists like the founder of Planned Parenthood, Margaret Sanger. And, you know, I can, as a cultural lefty myself, I can say that, you know, maybe I have more ability to criticize because, yes, when I take political tests, I'm a cultural lefty myself, okay? But I'm not going to be fooled by, you know, by deception and by dogma, whether it's on the left or the right. Okay? So, yes, Margaret Sanger was a asshole eugenicist, and Ayn Rand was a sociopath. So how's that? The left and the right. Problems with these people. Okay? Problems with cults of personality. Okay. So another place that I've seen discrimination against people with kids is at ex-Mormon conferences. There's a group called the Ex-Mormon Foundation, and they run yearly conferences. And I've generally been friends with the people who run the conferences, and I support their hard work and thank them for that. But they've got this little problem, and I'm not sure where it's coming from, or maybe it's actually a big problem, where on their website, you know, for their conference last year and this year, they say they have a so-called strict no-child policy. Because of the content of the conferences and the fact that alcohol might be present in the hospitality suite at night, that means we have to have a strict no-child policy. Well, to that, okay? My son. The importance of having my son to be with me, to be welcome, that is more important than your little meetings. And I don't care how many people you've helped out of Mormonism in the past or helped them with their recovery path. I don't really care about any of that. The most important thing, you know, my son is more important than your group, or even of our friendship. So if my son isn't welcome to sit next to me in a meeting where we're listening to people talk about how to recover from Mormonism and how to find a new life after Mormonism, well, okay, then I guess I'm not welcome either, and that is discrimination. Okay, so lastly, we have a group here called the Atheists of Utah. And they are a group that has kind of morphed and changed over the years, and different leaders and different people, and kind of politics and fights in the past, and the people who fought have had little political disputes in the past are mostly gone, and whatever. And there was two groups, and now there's one group, and maybe there'll be two groups again. We'll see, huh? Hint, hint. And there's already more than one group, but maybe we'll have another one here. I don't know. With regard to Atheists of Utah, they have, in recent years, they have these events where it's basically a potluck snack party where people can bring alcohol if they want and a snack to share, and then they raffle off a wheelbarrow of booze. Okay, and I participated in those parties in the past, and in the past there were different leaders involved, different people. And before this wheelbarrow of booze thing, the meetings were held at a man's house, a previous president who is now no longer really associated with the group. And they were pretty open-ended. No restrictions on who could go. No requirement for membership to people be a member to go. It was just kind of open-ended, kind of really an opportunity to meet and greet. And if you wanted to join, hey, that's great. But you weren't required to join as a condition on going. But the most recent party, their summer solstice party, has a few problems. The first problem is that in order to go, you either have to promise to join their group or pay a cover charge. But the cover charge option is really lower down, and you wouldn't really find that option unless you searched for it and dug for it. And most people wouldn't get to that option. They would just see, okay, only members can go. Well, I'm not a member, so I guess I won't go. So that's that. And at this meeting, they're going to be voting on new members of the board. And they're encouraging people to run for the board. But the meeting has been also advertised by certain leaders that children are not really welcome at the event. So what are people with children supposed to do? Do we have to find... What if you have like a 10-month-old son and you don't really want to get a babysitter because he's still pretty young? Can you go to the event and vote? What you gonna do? I mean, being required to get a babysitter just to go so you can go to someone's house and have a bit of food and some snack, just for that privilege, should I have to get a babysitter? That's discrimination. So, the atheists of Utah, they had association with the Pride Parade here, the Gay Pride Parade, and so I was wondering, the gay people, they come out and they have their Pride Parade and dance around and stuff, but where's the Pride Parade for straight people? Where's our parade? Where does the act of having a child, bringing a child into the world, get to be celebrated? Are we welcome at your events? Are we welcome at ex-Mormon conferences? Are we welcome at parties where voting is happening, at atheist meetings? Are we welcome in Unitarian churches? And the answer is, well, no, we're not. And part of the reason is because of this association with the abusive left-leaning cultural meme set, which states that having children is a bad thing, a thing to be feared. You have to fear having children because of overpopulation. That's an abusive idea. And the good thing about leaving a religion, a dogmatic religion like Mormonism, is the ability to question abusive ideas from all quarters. Even my own quarter, supposed quarter, on the left. And the whack jobs on the right, sometimes a few of the things they say are actually correct. Margaret Sanger was a eugenicist. And Peter Singer's views, similar views, are abusive as well. So, don't be sucked in by people on the left or the right. We navigate a path around them. And if you have a social support group that is intended to help people, find new lives after leaving conservative religion, you should be all-inclusive, not only of gays, but of people who, yes, have engaged in sexual reproduction, and who are just regular old-fashioned straight people with kids. Okay? So that's that.